Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive.
Hmm.
This time, we're going to try and figure out what happens when agile and human-centered design, kind of come together.
Yeah.
And I think we all kind of have an intuition that it's something pretty powerful, right? Like you could end up with products that are not only, built super fast,
Right.
but also actually connect with what people need and what they want.
Exactly. Imagine something that is so easy and fun to use that it's like they read your mind when they designed it,
Yeah.
you know?
Right. It's like it was just made for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's kind of the potential here when you blend Agile and HCD.
So it's not really like either. It's really like both hand.
Yeah, you kind of need both, right? Agile gives you that speed that, you need to keep iterating and adapting, and HCD makes sure you're actually building something that people want to use.
Makes sense. I guess you could say agile is like the engine that makes it go.
Yeah.
And HCD is kind of like the steering wheel, making sure you're going in the right direction. Yeah, I like that. Before we go any further, though, can you remind me, like, what's the deal with design thinking? I mean, I feel like I kind of know it,
Sure.
but how does it fit into all of this?
Well, so design thinking is all about solving problems, but, keeping humans at the center of the process.
Right.
And there are 5 main parts to it. You got to empathize with the users.
Mm-hmm.
You got to really define what their needs are, brainstorm solutions,
Okay.
build prototypes, mock-ups, and then test those prototypes with real people.
Uh-huh.
And what's really neat is you can actually weave these stages right into your Agile sprints.
Oh, I see.
Like each sprint becomes, like a mini design thinking journey.
A microcosm.
Yeah, exactly. Where you're constantly like getting feedback from users and using that to make the product better.
And I guess that's one of the big advantages, right? I mean, I'm looking at our notes here, and it seems like getting things to market faster,
Yeah,
beating the competition is a huge win.
definitely.
And also less risk, less chance of building the wrong thing. And obviously a better experience for people actually using the thing.
All of that's important. But there's one benefit that's maybe not as obvious.
What's that?
It can actually help you come up with more innovative solutions.
How so?
Well, think about it. Agile makes you break things down into smaller pieces,
Uh-huh.
and you test your ideas really quickly,
Right. So you fail fast and learn from it.
Exactly. And that's crucial for innovation.
Yeah.
HCD, on the other hand, gives you that deep understanding of the user. So you can figure out, what are the needs that nobody's meeting yet?
Yeah.
And how can we design something truly groundbreaking?
It's like you're combining the best of both worlds, right? Speed and this like deep user understanding.
Yeah. And it's not just theory either. I mean, look at Airbnb. They've done an amazing job of blending these two, and now they've got this platform that's not only really user-friendly, but it's also constantly evolving.
Yeah, it's amazing how they just seem to know what you need as a traveler, like even before you do. Do you have an example of like a specific feature that came out of this whole Agile HCD thing at Airbnb?
Oh, yeah, definitely. A few years back, Airbnb noticed that a lot of travelers were getting frustrated with the cleaning fees.
Yeah.
They felt like the fees weren't very transparent. So what did? They got a team together, and in just one sprint,
Wow.
they designed, prototyped, and tested a new feature that showed the cleaning fees right up front, when you're booking.
So no surprises.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It solved a big problem for the users, and it actually led to more bookings and happier customers overall.
That's incredible. I mean, it really shows how powerful this combination can be, when you actually listen to the users and then respond quickly.
Yeah, and as more and more companies start doing this, we can expect to see some pretty cool innovations. Things that are not only efficient, but also really focused on the human experience.
Yeah, like finally some technology that actually gets us. Now, speaking of which, I'm sure it's not always sunshine and roses when you're trying to bring these two worlds together, Agile and HDD. I mean, what are some of the challenges that companies might run into?
Well, yeah, it's definitely not always easy.
Okay.
One of the biggest hurdles is finding that balance between Agile speed and the deep research that you often need for HCD.
Makes sense. I mean, how do you make sure you're moving quickly but not skipping over important user insights,
You have to plan carefully and prioritize what's really important for each sprint. Like maybe instead of doing these long interviews,
Yeah.
you do shorter, more focused testing sessions or use online surveys to get feedback from a lot of people quickly.
So you're being smart about how you integrate the HCD part.
That's it.
Okay.
And another challenge is getting people with different mindsets to work together effectively.
Uh-huh.
Like designers, they're all about empathy and understanding the user.
Yeah.
And developers They're focused on the technical side of things,
Mhm.
making the code work.
Makes sense.
Sometimes it feels like they're speaking different languages.
Right. It's like a whole different world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you need to build a culture where everybody understands and respects each other's perspectives.
Yeah, like a shared language almost.
Yeah. And, cross-functional teams can really help with that.
What are those again?
It's where you have designers and developers working side by side through the whole process.
I see.
So there's no silos. Everyone's communicating and collaborating from day one.
So it's not just about having the right processes in place, but also about, the people and how they work together.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And then there's the challenge of scaling HCD.
Right.
It's one thing to do it on a small project,
Yeah.
but when you've got these massive projects with lots of teams and stakeholders, it can be really hard to keep that user-centric focus.
Makes sense.
So you know what some companies do? They create a dedicated HCD team,
Interesting.
like a center of excellence, provide guidance and training to the other teams.
Oh,
That way you have this central group that's making sure everybody's on the same page and using the same best practices.
and using HCD consistently across the board.
Exactly. It's also really important to track your progress and see what kind of impact you're making.
Right. Like, are you actually making things better for the user?
Yeah, are you seeing more engagement, fewer complaints to customer service? These metrics can help you figure out what's working and what's not.
You got to measure it to manage it, right?
Exactly. And this brings us to another important point. How do you know if you're actually getting the benefits of this whole hybrid approach?
Yeah. That's a good question. How do you measure success when you're combining these two things?
You got to set clear objectives that align with both Agile and HCD.
Hmm.
So, for example, you might aim to reduce customer support tickets by a certain percentage
Okay.
while also hitting a high user satisfaction rating.
So everyone's working towards the same goals.
Exactly. And then you've got companies like Spotify who are doing a phenomenal job with this integration.
AR, what's their secret?
Well, they've got this squad model where each squad is like a mini cross-functional team.
Oh, okay.
So you've got designers, developers, product owners, all working together on a specific feature or part of the product.
It's like their own little startup within the company.
Yeah. And they have a lot of autonomy to make decisions quickly.
That's cool. So they're not bogged down by bureaucracy.
Right. And because each squad really understands their users and they can experiment and iterate so fast, they can deliver incredible value.
That's awesome. I mean, it sounds like they've really cracked the code when it comes to combining speed and empathy.
They really have. And
Yeah.
it's not just the structure either. They've got this strong culture of user centricity and data-driven decision-making.
Makes sense.
They're always gathering feedback from users, doing A/B testing, and using data to guide their product development.
So it's baked into their DNA.
Yeah, that's why their product is so popular. People love it because it feels like it was made just for them.
Right. They're really leading the way in this whole movement towards user-centric design. It's inspiring.
It really is.
Yes.
Now thinking about the impact on users like us.
Yeah, like how does this all actually translate into the products and services that we use every day?
That's what we're going to talk about next.
All right, so stay tuned.
We'll be right back after the break.
So we were talking about how all of this impacts us, the people using these products and services. Like
Right.
when companies actually take this approach and combine Agile and HCD, how does that change the things we interact with?
Well, I think the most obvious impact is that you get products and services that are just so much better to use.
Yeah.
Like the apps you use every day. The ones that are super intuitive and easy to navigate.
Right.
And they just seem to predict what you need even before you realize it yourself.
It's true. The ones I actually enjoy using.
Exactly.
It feels like they were actually thinking about me when they designed it?
Yeah. That's the beauty of good design thinking paired with that agile development.
But it's not just apps, right? I mean, this could apply to so many other things.
Absolutely. I mean, imagine if hospitals used this approach, to make the whole patient experience so much smoother and faster and more personalized.
Yeah, like less waiting around.
Exactly. Or think about education.
Okay.
What if we had learning platforms that adapted to each student's individual needs?
Yeah. That's cool. Like a personalized tutor.
Yeah. And imagine if it could give you feedback in real time.
Wow. I mean, we're talking about making some serious improvements in people's lives.
Right. From the everyday stuff to the really big challenges.
Yeah, this could change the game completely.
And it's not just about improving what we already have. I mean, this approach can also lead to entirely new innovations. You know,
Like what?
well, think about it. What if we use this to design more sustainable cities?
Oh, wow.
Or assistive technologies that help people with disabilities live more independently?
Uh-huh.
Or even personalized learning experiences that help every student reach their full potential? You know?
It's like the sky's the limit.
Exactly. There's so much we can do if we just start thinking differently.
Yeah, but what about the people actually making all this happen? You know,
Okay.
the designers and the developers. How does this way of working impact them?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
For designers, I think it's super empowering because they get to see their ideas come to life so much faster.
Uh-huh.
And they're constantly getting feedback from users so they can keep refining and improving their designs, you know?
Right. It's like a constant conversation with the people you're designing for.
Yeah. And for developers, it gives them a much deeper understanding of the user's needs
Okay.
so they can see how their work is actually making a difference in people's lives.
It's more meaningful that way.
Yeah, it becomes more than just writing code, you know?
It's about making a real impact.
Exactly. And I think it creates a much more collaborative and rewarding work environment for everyone.
Yeah, it sounds like a win-win for everybody involved.
Yeah. And don't forget about the businesses themselves.
Right.
They can get products to market faster. They can reduce development costs. And ultimately, they end up with products that people actually love to use, which means more loyal customers and higher profits.
So everybody wins.
It really is a win-win-win situation.
It's amazing to think about the ripple effects. You know, like
Yeah.
this shift towards user centricity could actually drive positive social change.
Exactly. By focusing on real human needs and using this combination of speed and empathy,
Right.
we can create a better world for everyone.
That's a really powerful thought. Now, as we wrap up this deep dive, is there one key takeaway that you would leave our listeners with?
I think the most important thing to remember is this. The future of innovation depends on combining speed and empathy.
I like that.
Whether you're designing a product, leading a team, or just trying to solve a problem in your own life.
Okay.
Remember that the best solutions are the ones that work well and feel good to use. You know?
They're both effective and human-centered.
Exactly. That's the sweet spot.
That's fantastic advice. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. It's been a real eye-opener.
It's been a pleasure.
And to our listeners out there, keep exploring these ideas and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Absolutely.
Until next time, stay curious. Okay, so we were talking about, you know, how all this impacts us, the people using these products and services.
Right.
Like, when companies actually use this approach, you know, Agile and HCD, how does that change the things we interact with every day?
Well, you know, at the end of the day, the user is the one who benefits the most from this whole integration.
Right. That's us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Think about the apps you use. I mean, the ones that are just so easy and intuitive.
Yeah.
And they seem to just know what you need before you even realize it.
It's true. The apps that I actually like using,
Exactly.
they feel like they get me, you know?
True. And that's what happens when you combine good design thinking with that rapid agile development.
Makes sense, but it's not just apps, right? I mean, this could be applied to so many other things.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, imagine if hospitals used this approach.
Mhm.
Think about how much smoother and faster and more personalized the whole patient experience could be.
Yeah, like less waiting around.
Exactly. Or what about education?
Okay.
What if we had learning platforms that were actually tailored to each student's individual learning style?
Wow, that would be amazing.
And they could give you personalized feedback like right away, you know?
It's like having a personal tutor in your pocket.
Yeah. We're talking about making real improvements in people's lives, you know?
Right, from the everyday stuff to the really big challenges.
Exactly. And, you know, it's not just about improving what we already have. This approach can also lead to entirely new innovations, things we haven't even thought of yet.
Like what kind of things?
Well, imagine if we used Agile and HCD to design more sustainable cities.
Okay. Yeah.
Or develop technologies that help people with disabilities, you know, live more independently. Or create these incredible personalized learning experiences that help every student reach their full potential.
The possibilities are endless.
They really are. It's exciting to think about.
It is. But what about the people who are actually creating all this stuff? You know,
Oh.
the designers and developers. How does this approach change their work? You know?
It's a good question. For designers, I think it's really empowering because they get to see their ideas come to life so much faster.
Yeah.
And they get constant feedback from users
Yeah.
so they can keep refining their designs,
Yeah.
you know?
It's like this ongoing conversation.
Exactly. And for
Yeah.
developers, it gives them a much deeper understanding of the user's needs.
Okay.
So they can see how their work is actually making a difference in people's lives.
Yeah, their work has more meaning.
It's not just about writing code anymore.
Right. It's
Yeah.
about solving real problems for real people.
Exactly. And I think it creates a much more collaborative and rewarding work environment for everyone involved.
It sounds like a win-win for the designers and the developers.
Yeah, it is. And let's not forget about the businesses themselves.
Right.
I mean, they can get their products to market faster.
Mm-hmm.
They can reduce development costs. And they end up creating products that people actually love to use.
Right, because they're actually listening to what people want.
Exactly. Which
Yeah.
means more loyal customers and, higher profits.
So everybody wins.
It's a win-win-win situation.
It really is, and it's amazing to think that this shift towards user centricity,
Yeah.
it could actually lead to some really positive changes in the world.
Absolutely. I mean, by focusing on real human needs and using this combination of speed and empathy,
Right.
we can create a better world for everyone.
That's a really powerful thought. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one key takeaway you want to leave our listeners with?
I would say this. The future of innovation lies in combining speed and empathy.
I like that.
Whether you're designing a product, leading a team, or just trying to solve a problem in your own life, remember this.
Okay.
The best solutions are the ones that are both efficient and human-centered.
So they work well and they feel good to use.
Exactly. That's the sweet spot.
I love it. That's such great advice. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. It's been truly insightful.
The pleasure was all mine.
And to our listeners out there, we encourage you to keep exploring these ideas, keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Yes. Keep learning.
And until next time, stay curious.